Hi everyone, welcome back to another Lovin' Off the Land video. This week, as promised last week, we are going to show you how to step up your potato bag game and start growing potatoes in your recycled feed bags rather than throwing them away. So last week we went through and showed you how to do it in the kind of regular potato bags that you can find online that work really well, and we love using them, but they're a little bit smaller. And we were finding that we were hating throwing out these feed bags, and we have so many of them that we kind of were struggling with things to use them for. So we started using them to grow potatoes, which is great because we can not only grow them out of the top, but we cut these little holes in the side of them, and that way potatoes are going to grow the entire way through this bag. So when we empty this out in the fall, we are going to get an amazing yield. So let's go through how you can do this on your own. First, and probably the most important thing, is drainage holes. If you buy these these potato bags, they're already going to have drainage holes in the bottom. You do not want your soil to be kind of wet and soggy at the bottom, or your potatoes will rot and not grow well. So these bags are really sturdy, so you do not want to mess with this kind of bottom strip here with the string on it. These feed bags come with 20 kilograms of feed in them, so they're super sturdy. So you just want to make sure that you don't mess with their integrity with anything that's kind of rip or tear. But you do want to put a couple drainage holes in the bottom here. And all we're going to do is take a pair of scissors and just on the non-seal part at the bottom, cut a couple clips in there just for holes at the bottom. They don't need to be super big. The water will drain out of there. And this is also how we're going to cut our holes like we've done here for the potatoes to kind of grow through and grow out of the sides. So we're going to take this tag off. And put one more on this side. And try and get kind of as low as you can without getting into that bottom strip. And now we're ready to start filling with some dirt. So obviously this is going to take quite a bit of soil, and what we like to do is mix our soil with a bunch of straw because for your potatoes to grow, you want them to be able to expand easily. So you want a nice light soil. So as long as the soil that you're using is nutrient rich, we kind of do a 50-50 mix with straw, and that way as our potatoes expand, they'll be able to expand easily, and they're not going to be pushing out, trying to expand in hard clay-based soil or something like that. So definitely kind of mix it with another substrate. Another important thing to keep in mind with your soil that we found out the hard way the first time we did it is to make sure your soil is fairly moist or wet even when you put it in. Because if you put it in dry and your straw is dry, once you water your potato bag, everything's going to settle. And it's really important to kind of keep these potato shoots coming out of the holes where they are. So if everything sinks once it gets wet and drops an inch or two, your potato sprouts may not find those holes again. So definitely dampen your soil. Make sure it's got a good moisture content in there before adding it into the bag in the first place. The other thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you're kind of pressing out the sides so that all these fill out, because you don't want those void spaces where that soil is going to move again down the line and your potatoes are going to kind of slide down as the soil moves into those gaps. So we'll go through that in a second here. So again, you just want to get it pushed down into those side gaps there so you don't have a lot of space down at the bottom. Once you have about 6 inches, you're going to want to put in your first kind of potato shoots or starter potatoes that you have. So this is where you want to start kind of cutting holes. Feel where your soil is there. And you don't want a big hole because you don't want a bunch of soil to fall out, but you want enough that you're going to be able to put a potato on the inside, and it's going to feed through that little hole here. As you can see, we've kind of just spread them out randomly around the bag, so you don't want to put them all in a straight line going up or all in a circle that way. Just kind of stagger them so as they grow out, the leaves are going to not be competing in the same spots, and they'll kind of be spread out around your bag. So we'll do one on that side that we did in the middle. And then we'll do 2 more around the edge on this side. And so I'm just going to get a little bit more soil in there, because then I'm going to bury the potatoes under that layer of soil, just to kind of hold them in place. And it does get a little bit tricky to kind of balance them out. You'll see as we go along, just so the potatoes don't shift and move outside of those holes. So I'll kind of show you that, but that's definitely a bit of a tricky part with that. So we've got some seed potatoes there that were kind of left over from last year, which are great. And if they have some leaves on them, that's awesome. If they're not that far along yet, that's okay. You just need to be able to fit them through that hole here. And this is kind of the delicate part that you want to do to make sure you're obviously not ripping them and that you're not breaking off that stem of the potato. Kind of move a good amount of soil on top of that, and now that's your first sprout coming up. And as you see, potatoes are going to want to grow up, so you'll see they almost kind of cling to the side of the bags here. Once they come up, that'll be sticking out a little bit, but eventually that will kind of pull up to the side of the bag there. Got our next one. Switch around and do our one at the front there. And so for these, we really like to try and save our potatoes from the year before. You'll see these are kind of small ones. So any ones that we are not going to eat from the year prior's harvest, we save those to use for our seed potatoes. You can go, of course, go and buy those bags, but we really find that to be honest, not really that worthwhile if you're paying $16.99 or something for a bag of starter potatoes when a bag of potatoes actually costs that much. You know, how much is that really helping your self-sufficiency? So any potatoes that have gone bad that you're going to throw out the year before, or that are too small or you're not going to eat from your prior year's harvest, save those, put them downstairs in a cellar or something for the winter, let them sprout. In the spring, they'll be ready to go rather than throwing them out or putting them in your compost. Okay, so that is our first layer. All we're gonna do is kind of repeat that process over and over again. We're gonna do another 6 inches of soil, put in some more starter potatoes, put in another 6 inches of soil, and do it all the way to we're at the top. And then once we've got it up to there, we'll come back and show you how to kind of finish it off, get a nice one growing out of the top as well, and finish off your potato bag. All right, so as you can see, we now got that fully filled up. Honestly, the biggest time-consuming part of this was just prepping all the soil and mixing that with the straw. Now what we're gonna wanna do, you can see we've kind of done it here, is just staple some of these closed together so it's not like a huge open gap. And then we're gonna plant a couple more in the top. When we did this one, I was worried they weren't gonna get enough light, but they obviously have, and those are coming through the top now. So that'll be a nice strong set of potatoes coming out of there too. So we're just gonna pull these bits back together there. We've kind of filled it pretty full, so we're not gonna be able to get too much. And what this is gonna help do too is just to kind of hold some of that moisture in there so you don't have the sun directly hitting your soil and drying it out, which is one of the nice things about this, and save some water as well. All right, we've got a few more here. We're just gonna plant. Our turkey likes to talk during our videos as well. If you haven't noticed, that's what we got going on in the background there. So we're gonna plant those guys into there. We're gonna do 3 on top there just so we got some nice growth heading straight down in the middle of this. Let's do that guy there. And now all we're gonna do is give that a good water. Probably try and set it up somewhere where you don't have to move it right away. We're gonna leave it here for a few days just to settle. You know, once they're at this point, they're pretty sturdy, and that's obviously not going anywhere, but when they're these young shoots, you know, if you move the bag too suddenly or you drop it down and it sets, you do risk breaking them. So try and leave it somewhere where you can actually leave it sitting in that same spot, at least till you start to get some thicker stems on your potatoes. So like I said, we're gonna give that a water. This one is probably about 3 weeks old, and you can see the great growth on that already. So we'll come back, like we said at the end of the last video, in the fall, and we're gonna show you the results and the yield we get from all 3 of our potato videos. Last week was the potato bags. This week was the recycled feed bags. And next week, we are going to be doing a potato tower using wire mesh. So it's gonna be, God, I don't want to think about it, probably about 6 times the size of this, growing it in mesh fencing, which is again going to allow them to grow out the sides and grow up and give a great yield out of there as well. So we hope you found this useful. Please help us out and hit like and subscribe below, and we'll see you next week for the potato tower video.